Good evening, everyone. It is July 6th, 2023. Now, what I said last night was that I was looking for us to get into that 44.20 to 37 zone and ideally find a bid around there. And that is what we got. We got the ideal bid. If I delete this, you can really see it. And this line had not been developed yet. But we got it right off that 22-ish spot. I think low of the day coming in at 19.5. Pretty much the bottom of the zone. I think the bottom was 19. Yeah, so right around there. So we've had a pretty great bounce. Now, what I want to see, I don't think bulls want to see this get much lower. We don't really want to see that low of the day get broken tomorrow. We do have NFP coming out pre-market for news, but I don't think the bulls want to see that low of the day broken. I think ideally the overnight low kind of holds around this. What would I call it? Kind of 30 to 39 to 34 area. That's kind of where I'd be liking to see us hold during the overnight. 39 to 34. Don't really want to see us get much below there. I think if you do, you start flirting with taking out these lows, and if you do that, I'm not too sure would be breaking the overnight high. So what I'll be looking for in general is if we take out the overnight low, I'll be suspect that we'll be getting a ramp job. The probability of it would be low, as it'd be unlikely we'd be breaking that overnight high, and I would start to lean. I would start to lean away from long setups if we broke that overnight low until we broke the overnight high. So I would be leaning on shorts, and I'd be looking for us to break the low of the day. I'd be looking for us to get into some of these stops here around 44 on lower time frames. You can see this around 44.17 quarter, 07.5, and of course all of these lined up perfectly. I think these would also get a bit of a kicking. Looks like we broke that line. That's why it's not there. So that's what I'm looking for. Ideally, and I mentioned this at the start of the week, get down to 44.22s and return over 44.60s. And that was where we had this huge churn for something like 6 or 7 hours, something like that, from about midnight onwards, midnight to 8 a.m., so about 8 hours. If we reclaim the 60 to 65 area, more like 61, really, I think bears are going to be in quite a bit of trouble. This is where we were holding the bid on that June 15th session. That's where we had the offers stack up. That's where we held it today. So 61 is going to kind of be the main, maybe that should have been the pivot on the week, but that's going to be the number that I'm watching. And ideally, I would like to be long at that 61 number, but given how much chop we had before that sell-off, I think we will have shorts coming in at 65 before that gap close up at 71. And getting long at 61 just doesn't really get me much to lean against, even with a 10-point stop. I mean, the 10-point stop would just be yesterday's high of the day. So instead, what I'll be doing is trying to get long a little bit lower below there. So let's get into that. We can get into the NQ right after this, but that's why I'm looking at it like this. I want to be long 54s. Ideally, yeah, sure, would be looking for a long at 61, but again, I think it's just going to be difficult to get 61, 63 quarters. There we go. The 61 to kind of 65. Yeah, 61 to 60. Let's call it 66-ish. Yeah, somewhere around there. 61 to 66 would have been ideal, but I just don't think that gives you enough to lean on against. So instead, I'll be looking to get long 54 with perhaps a stop at something like 44. Before a tag of that gap close up at 71. Below there, I want to be long 44, 44 and 3/4. That just being that weekly high that we had, the RTH weekly high from this Tuesday session. The point of control shifted up there really nicely today, and I want to see us tag the VWAP close at 36/4. I will be avoiding that once again if the overnight low is broken until the overnight high is broken. And if we do break the overnight low, I'll be using that as a short zone instead. And I'll be leaning against, I'll be looking to short 44s against the overnight high, which is currently sitting at, I think, 49 or 48. Below there, I'd like to be bid at 22s. That will be only after we find a bid somewhere around 12 to 17. So after we run some of these stops and find a bid somewhere around here, I think 12 to 17. No notable numbers actually down there. But I think essentially what I want to see is this stop ran, this low of the day stop, these stops ran, and then seeing if we can regain inside today's range and make our way upwards. Below there, 4402s after a run of all of these lows, and then below there, one final one at a point of control around 85. That's where we found the bid a couple times, and this to me is sort of the last spot for longs to step in. And that's something I mentioned over here. Nasdaq is not too dissimilar. This video is getting long and I'm a little bit slow today. We held this downtrend perfectly, bang on, used it as support, just like how we held this perfectly as resistance. We got our move into the same ideal bid area, just about got it. And I mentioned on that Tuesday that I was saying I think it'll be a little bit difficult. I was looking for a move down to around 100, which is pretty much what we got, 111, 112, and a powerful push, not as confident with a powerful push back over 300. And you're kind of seeing that right now. We've spent whatever it is, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 hours now, struggling to get out of this pivot area. I think we'll have a little bit of trouble, but once we get above kind of this same area, this kind of, whatever this is, 300-ish, once we get into the 300s, I think this thing will be hard to short. I think we'll be looking at breaking all these highs, all this resistance crap. I think that'll be getting blown out. Whether that actually happens, whether we make it to the 300 is the question. So similarly, here's what I'll be looking for on the NQ. A little more aggressive on the long side. Willing to take 265s long where we have this major support, similar to our 61 level. That'll be before a tag of these stops, before running all these stops around 308. The stop in that case would be around 215, so kind of below where we're finding support currently. Otherwise, I'd be looking to take 243s along the 95% value area high from today. And that is if 200 to 215 goes bid, so anywhere around here, this sort of zone. Maybe I'll draw it out for you guys. Something like this. Otherwise, I'm looking to take 201s long if we hold kind of this point of control down to 160, down to 150, kind of this zone here. Something like this. The point of control being, in my opinion, where we auction around. Importantly, holding this low of the day, but where we auction around and then ramped upwards. Below there, if we get a tag of that point of control, I may be looking to take an aggressive long at 168s. Below there, I want to see these low of the day stops ran into 98. 98 being the weekly VWAP close, and then I'd be willing to take longs inside of today's range. And then down below, taking 15,042 long, and that being similar idea as the 4402s. Essentially, want to see all these stops get ran and then taking it long. Long video. Open to a lot of potential scenarios tomorrow. But in general, what I'll be looking for is a bit of a sell. Same thing on the NQ. A little bit of a sell. Show me a little bit of a sell. And then I want to see these bids get up to at least 44.60. I think we closed that gap at 71. What happens at 83 and all that? Not sure. Same thing with the NQ. I'm not sure how low it'll get, but eventually what I'll be looking for are those bids up to break these highs, to break this kind of 308 area. I think we run all these stops. Anyway, hope that makes sense. Hope that helps. NFP tomorrow pre-market. It'll shake some things up. Have a great night. Trade safe.